And this is News Central. I am Mawina Egbeta.
And I am Kemini Amano. There are more stories coming your way right now.
Let's begin this afternoon straight from Parliament, because the indication we get is that President Kumor has appointed 3 Court of Appeal justices to fill vacancies on the Supreme Court bench. This include Justice Henry Anthony Kofi, Justice Yawasare Dako, and Justice Richard Ejefrimpong. The appointment, according to the President, follows the mandatory retirement of 3 justices of the Apex Court earlier this year. The first Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Joseph Osei-Usu, referred the appointment of the 3 justices to the Appointment Committee of Parliament for consideration and to report back to the House on what the recommendations will be. Let's take you live to Parliament now, where colleague Komla Kluche is joining us with a bit more. Komla, many thanks. 3 justices. What's been the reaction of the House to this announcement?
Mr. Speaker, on the Garu issue, I believe that when the statement was made and comments were made, I was tasked by leadership quietly to engage the National Security Minister. And I came to report the outcome of the engagement, which engagement led to the National Security Ministry releasing the gentlemen who were in custody. And I must explain here that at the time I was sent by leadership, the court had already remanded them for 2 weeks. Upon all considerations, National Security, through its prosecutor, applied for a rescission of the said order, which the court granted. And the same day, government ensured that all those gentlemen were sent back to Garu, handed over to their relatives, and as and when they are needed for further investigations, so, Mr. Speaker, that matter has been settled. The National Security Minister did what was supposed to be done. He followed due process.
And so the indication we get a challenge with my colleague Komla Kluche's connection there. But that's the Deputy Majority Leader, Alexander Penyumakin, in that clip, also providing details on expectations of the House next week.
Hear this, 22,270. That's the number of scripts being subjected to scrutiny in reported cases of mass cheating in the 2023 Basic Education Certificate Examination. The West African Examination Council, WAEC, says these results might be cancelled or released based on the outcome of investigations. This was contained in a statement accompanying the release of the provisional results of candidates who sat for the 2023 BECE. But there's more to the numbers. Let's take a look at how many people sat for the exams this year. We know over 600,000 students sat for the BECE across the country. 600,900 is the specific number. We know 315 candidate subject results were cancelled. We also know that 184 candidates' subject results have been withheld. And entire results of 112 candidates also withheld, which means that those 112 people will not be having any results at all. But a total number of scripts withheld for further investigation is what you see on your television at the moment, 22,000. 270. And that's why we're having this conversation. Let's get on to Zoom and speak to the head of public relations at the West African Examination Council, John Kachi. John, good afternoon to you. 220,270 sounds like a really huge number. How is WAEC processing these numbers this year?
Good afternoon. So for the figures that you find over here, the 22,270 that you see is simply individual candidates with subjects in which there are suspicions of infractions. And so we are looking through to ensure that whatever it is that has been indicated is right or is, worth investigating or worth taking action on.
I want to look at these numbers again and how they compare to the previous years. Are we seeing an improvement in examination malpractices, or things are going down south?
Well, as we speak, we're dealing with individual candidates right now. Previously, we used to mention the names of schools which have had their candidates involved in one area of malpractice or the other. So unfortunately, I don't have the figures for last year with me right now. But I think that from what we are seeing this year, there has been quite an improvement as far as the engagement of candidates in examination malpractice is concerned.
I see. We know that investigations are ongoing for the over 22,000 scripts. How long will these investigations take place? When can these students begin to make progress in their education?
Well, for now, we are looking at a couple of weeks. Our officers have taken a look at the scripts. They've ascertained some others. They are not too sure. But then when they are done, we would distribute them to regions where the malpractices occurred, and then they'll have a one-on-one with the candidates to find out whether indeed they are culpable or otherwise.
John, I'm going to have you hold on Zoom for a bit. Let's hit the phone lines now and speak to Ranking Member of the Education Committee of Parliament, Peter Kwesi Nochu Kotoi. Thank you so much, Honourable, for your time on this. When you hear these figures, talk to us about what comes to mind for you as a ranking member on education.
Yeah, thank you very much, and good afternoon. For some time now, in a couple of years, as a committee and especially the minority, we have been calling on the WAEC to, as much as possible, eliminate, if possible, all examination malpractices, especially at the basic level, where the foundation is very, very important. And for some time, they have given us that assurance, and we have seen signs of improvement. But this year, they have given us reports of a number of malpractices that went on in some schools and at some centers. And what comes to mind immediately is that we support them in their work. They should make sure that they do a thorough investigation.
I see.
And where punishment is due, they should mete out the appropriate punishment.
I see.
Then also, the Minister of Education should live up to expectation that when WAEC tells them A, B, C, and they need for them to act, they should act accordingly. And then we can reduce or eliminate cheating and malpractices at the basic level.
Indeed. Honourable, we'll talk a bit more about action, but let's go back to John on Zoom. John, what happens to the 315 students whose entire results have been cancelled?
I'm sure WAEC is still investigating the matter. They said about 22,000 candidates have got their papers we've heard. That doesn't mean that they have cancelled.
Right.
At the appropriate time, they will give us
Honourable,
yes.
I didn't realize that you were responding to the question. That was for John. John, I was asking what happens to the 315 students whose entire results have been cancelled.
Oh, that one, it is for
the cancellation of subject results, not entire results. The 312 school candidates had their subject results cancelled, and then 3 privates. Those are just subject results. For those who had entire results cancelled, there were 41 school candidates and 1 private candidate.
Right. So what happens to those who have had entire results cancelled or subject results cancelled?
So for these people, they will have to wait until next year to write as private candidates.
I see. Let's go back onto the telephone lines. Honorable, how do you think that we can overcome this perennial problem of students always wanting to have their way when writing exams, if that is even the case at all?
Yes, we can only overcome this through collaborative efforts of parents and teachers and the Ministry of Education as well as the Education Service to cooperate together. And when we cooperate with each other, WIC will be in a position to make sure that these malpractices are stopped. They cannot do it alone. They need the cooperation of all stakeholders.
Well, John, take our conversation home for us. Is WIC taking any further steps to ensure that this does not repeat itself in the numbers we are seeing next year?
So we are continuing with our sensitization programs. We've also engaged the Director General and the Ghana Education Service to ensure that teachers who are engaged in these things are sanctioned. We are also trying to see if we could vary the test procedure so as not to have people, have maybe the same questions across the country. These are things that we are still thinking about. They are not out there as complete things that we are going to do yet, but at least for sensitization and for reports to the Ghana Education Service for sanctions, yes, those ones we have done, yeah.
John and Peter, thank you so much for your time here on News Central.
You're welcome. Pleasure.
We've been discussing the 2023 BECE results. This is News Central, and there's more news coming.
Rightly so, a lot more news, this time in Parliament, where the Minister for National Security, Albert Kandapa, on Thursday failed to show up in Parliament after being summoned by the Speaker over the recent military brutalities that took place in Garut Timpani. As you know it, and we've been reporting to you here on TV3, some military personnel recently stormed the Garut township in a dawn raid and assaulted residents in the process. The Ghana Armed Forces justified the attacks, accusing the irate youth in the area of initiating an attack on national security operatives, which led to the raid. The public outcry led to the summoning of the National Security Minister, who was expected to brief the House on the operation it carried out in Garu. But unfortunately, the hope of the MPs were dashed as the minister failed to show up, even though his appearance had been captured in Thursday's order paper. Let's get on to Zoom now. Speak with the MP for Garu, Albert Akuka Alalzuga. He's joined us this afternoon. Many thanks, Honourable, for joining us this afternoon. Have you gotten an explanation as to why the minister did not turn up? Honourable, can you hear me? There appears to be a difficulty a bit with being able to connect with the Honourable. It appears that he's rejoined us now. Honourable, I'm asking if you've gotten an explanation as to why the National Security Minister did not turn up yesterday in Parliament.
Hello.
Honourable, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
So,
can I... Your question again, please.
Have you got an explanation as to why the minister failed to turn up in Parliament, with your expectation up that you could get explanations as to why they raided your township? Oh dear. Pierce, the connection there is a bit challenging, and so we'll have to try and rework it and be able to get a connection to Honourable Azuga for a bit more. The minister was captured in the order paper, expected to be there and answer questions, because there's been concerns as well raised in relation to what has been a growing trend really of the military taking matters into their own hands. But while we try to reconnect, there's some developing story for you this afternoon. A lot of you might have heard or have it captured, particularly on social media. The conversations have started, but I get the indication that we will try one more time again to connect with the Honorable Minister and get an understanding, if possible, an explanation as to exactly why. The Honorable has joined us on the telephone lines now. Hopefully the connection is a lot better. Honorable, many thanks one more time. Hopefully it's clearer this time around. We're asking if you've been able to get an explanation first from leadership as to why the minister failed to turn up in Parliament yesterday.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good afternoon to cherished listeners. I'm sorry for the Zoom failure. I don't know what is happening. But I have not gotten any clear explanation yet from leadership. I was told that the minister said he did not get the invitation or an invitation by the speaker early enough to be able to prepare to come to the floor of Parliament, and that he was taken up by some other equally important activities. But I was so saddened. My colleague members of Parliament from the region and then from especially the coastal traditional area were very disappointed yesterday because I, in particular, I had to cut short some activities in the constituency. I was in the constituency to mourn with the family of one of the victims who lost his life, and then also to join some demonstrators who were demonstrating against the military brutalities in the Garu and Tempani. But I had to cut short my visit to the constituency to come back to the floor of Parliament to listen to the minister explain to the members of Parliament and then Ghanaians at large. Unfortunately, the minister failed to come up, and I'm disappointed. Many people are disappointed. The excuse that they are given that he was taken up by equally important activities outside and that he didn't get the message early enough is quite appalling. It's quite disappointing. I don't think that, because the information was given to the minister much earlier.
Right.
And this is an emergency situation. The people of Garu are crying for justice. The sick, those who have been maimed and wounded, are looking forward for government to intervene in terms of paying their medical bills. And then the person who died, we are seeking justice.
Right. Which brings me to the question that beyond the disappointment that you speak of, there are these concerns that are being raised by your constituents, compensation and the likes. For starters, is there a rescheduled date to which the minister is expected to appear before we can even get into matters on compensation?
Yes, I was told by leadership that the minister will appear on Monday. I'm told that Monday there will be a sitting. This important issue of the minister appearing, among other equally important issues, the relaying of the CI and many other equally important activities. The Parliament will be sitting on Monday, and so the minister has been rescheduled to appear on Monday to give an account or explain why the military conducted themselves that way in Garu and Tempani.
Right then, Honourable. Many thanks for speaking to us. That's the Honourable Alauzuga, is MP for Garu, speaking to us on the situation with the lack of appearance of the National Security Minister in Parliament yesterday.
Now, the Executive Committee of the Ghana Football Association is deliberating the future of Ghana football, but it's unlikely that the sacking of Black Stars coach Chris Hughton will be one of the subjects under consideration today. Now, Houghton's future has been the subject of intense speculation after reports earlier in the week that he would be sacked at today's meeting. Other reports say that the sacking will no longer happen. Already, the former Ireland international released his squad for 2 World Cup qualifiers this November. Now, this could be a sign he will take charge of them. The Ghana Football Association boss, Kurt Okreku, meanwhile claimed in a social media video that there were too many lies published in the Ghanaian media in an apparent reaction to this story. But there's a reason that these speculations have been rife surrounding and whirling around Chris Hughton and a possible sack. We'll tell you why, because Keko Kriku has gone, he's changed and fired quite a number of coaches in the last 3 years. 4 coaches, really, in the last 3 years. First round exits at 2021 AFCON and 2022 World Cup. Let's take a look at some of the coaches he's hired and fired so far. CK Akona, who has given us 10 games, 4 wins, 4 losses, and 2 draws. There is also Milovan Raivac, who's had 8 games, 3 wins, 3 losses, and 2 draws. Then there was Otto Addo, who's had 12 games, the highest number of games for any of the coaches in the last 3 years. He's had 5 wins, 4 losses, and 3 draws. And then there is Chris Hughton, the man about whom we are having this conversation. He's had 7 games, 3 wins, 2 losses, and 2 draws. If you see the pattern, so do I. But let's have a conversation with the man who knows all of this. Sports journalist Sadiq Adams has joined us via Zoom. Sadiq, good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for your time here. Can Ghana afford to lose a coach at this time?
Good afternoon to you. I believe that this is not the right time to start with. We've done this over and over, and it's not yielded any dividend for Black Stars. The sacking of coaches or coaches being scapegoats, just not to say that Chris Hughton has had a very impressive start to his Black Stars career. But the point is that the sacking of coaches, 5 of them in the last 3 years or so, hasn't brought any transformation to the Black Stars. And to see that the coach in charge of the team is trying to build a new squad, and in sporting terms, it will take quite some time for us to get to the level where we want to get to. It is because of the lack of admission of what our standards are at this point, reasons why the sacking of coaches or coaches have become the primary scapegoats. But to me, 2 months before the start of the African Cup of Nations, it's not the right time for sacking of coaches, sporting-wise and even economically. I don't think that is the right decision to take.
I see. Outside of that, I'd like to hear your thoughts on what Hughton could do to retain the position now that speculations of his firing are rife.
I think he should be his own man. There have been concerns about collapse into the Black Stars. There are so many players of Ghanaian origin in other places doing quite good. There are so many youngsters in the team that he's trying to rebuild. I'm sure that what he needs to do is to be consistent and be his own man. At the point that he's seen that he has some hands, he has the support of the country substantially, media behind him, government at this point, and some members of the Football Association also believe that we need to give him some time to be able to have his own signature on the team. I think the time that he's been given is too short. The opponents that he's faced in the last few months, the results have been quite bad, but I don't think that it's a basis for him to be sacked. He needs to be his own man. There are 2 matches ahead of us in this month, World Cup qualifiers, and we can't afford to draw points, especially playing against Madagascar and Comoros. We know what Comoros did to Ghana at the AFCON recently, but that not to say that Chris Hughton will have any excuses when we drop points against Comoros. We need to go to Moroni and win. We need to win against Madagascar next week. So possibly he only needs results to cement his position. There's nothing much more to do.
Sadiq, just hold the line for me. Let's get back onto issues surrounding Chris Hughton. While some believe he should be maintained, others argue the coach has not been up to standard in handling the national team. Speaking to News Central, some Ghanaians suggested it is time for the country to appoint a female coach for the Black Stars. Take a listen.
If for the past 2 games that we've played, they have scored Ghana, why not? Because if maybe they've scored Ghana first match, and then the second we didn't do any better, Why should we keep the same coach? And Ghana said, Charlie, this much. I've given up on Ghana. I've given up on Ghana longer. So you're not giving us much. It's not shocking.
Who do you suggest should now be the new coach? Should Houston be shot?
What's the name of the coach for the ladies, the Black Queens? She is very, very good. She's very good. That one dear, no lie. We should get a female coach for the first time and try and see.
He's played no more than 5 games. And you want to truncate the contract, you're going to pay a huge sum of money to the man if you should terminate the contract. So for me, I feel and think that it is a little premature for the coach to be sacked or for his appointment to be terminated as of now. And the football is one of the avenues by which we make ourselves happy in the country. And so if we are not getting what we want from the government, and then we are not getting the entertainment we also expect from the football fraternity, then it's a bother to all of us.
We can import players. This is what we have. We are not developing new players from like the coats. The old time we had coats and stuff where we can pick players and then train them for national teams. Now we don't have those things anymore. He's working with what he has. You can sack him and change the coach 100 times. Until you get good players, it's still going to be the same story. We have to sit up as a nation and invest into sports. And then we can get the kind of players we need, whether football, athletics, or whatever it is, to improve Ghana's. But for now, I don't see that happening.
We had that call for a female coach. Let's take that conversation back to Sadiq, who's joining us via Zoom. Sadiq, could a female coach have the magic wand for our national team?
Yeah, possible. You never know. There have been novices who come to the Black Stars and done magical with the team. So a female coach, the gender doesn't, negate the fact that the person is competent or not. I don't want to make it a gender issue, whether a male or female. Anybody can come in.
I see you're playing safe on that one. Let's talk about something that you may not play safe on. There are those who are saying that instead of playing the musical chairs with the coaches, they should look at the players. Could that be the solution?
Definitely. Even beyond the players, Kemini, I don't think that the current design of the Black Stars or national team, even Pep Guardiola of Manchester City will succeed with the team like he would want to. Not even Pep Guardiola would have an easy ride in the current design and structure of the Black Stars. The players are not up to the level you want. There have been players who've never competed at the highest level in their clubs this season. Some of them are French players. They've come to the national team. Some are called. They never get the opportunity to play. We don't have the top talent. We are not producing. So it's a matter of long-term development. You mentioned Kudus. You mentioned Kamaldeen. You mentioned this. But compare them to other players playing in other teams. You don't even need individual players to perform at the national team level. You need a team, a setup. So every component must function. So like I say, you can sack Chris Hughton today and bring in Pep Guardiola.
Right.
Because of the peculiar nature of the design, the failures are plenty around the Black Stars. So we need time for them to build their own team and then put in the right structures for a long-term commitment. Yeah.
Sadiq, thank you so much for your insights on the subject matter. Now, that's a story we'll continue to follow here on News Central. But I tell you what, we've got much more news coming on in the second segment of our show today. Don't go away.
Still News Central here from our studios on the John Hammond Street. Let's do politics now. And a current happening at the Alisa Hotel, because the National Executive Committee of the governing New Patriotic Party, their meeting this afternoon is a first meeting for the body that oversaw the operations of the party since Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia was elected flag bearer of the party. TV3 sources in the meeting indicate that the Vice President is present. My colleague Duke Mensah Opoku is at the venue. He's at Alisa Hotel right now. He's joining us via Zoom. Duke, many thanks for joining us. We know that there's been a lot of conversation after the election of the Vice President as the flag bearer of the party. Is this meeting about the selection of a running mate? Because that's come up quite strongly as well.
Eric, so this is an emergency committee meeting of the National Executive Committee of the New Patriotic Party. It is the third highest decision-making body of the party after the annual delegates conference and the National Council. It's an emergency meeting, which means that there's not one of the planned meetings that they usually have. It's coming on the back of the MPP's election last weekend to elect a flag bearer. The next logical question is who the running mate is going to be.
Exactly.
We're told that there are going to be some proposals that will be made at this meeting. Of course, the running flag bearer, that meeting, national chairman is in the meeting, national organizer in the meeting, the chairman of the Council of Others is also in the meeting. Now, at the very end of the meeting, we are told that during any other business portion of the meeting, some proposals will come up in relation to some guidelines which will guide Dr. Bamia in the selection of who the running mate is. Eventually, the running mate choice is made. It will be, that decision will be presented, or that person will be presented before the National Council meeting, or the National Council, which is the highest decision-making body in the absence of the annual delegates conference. So the meeting has been going on since 9 a.m. They are here in chats, even though the security detail has not been very welcoming of the media here. We are still here trying to get the information, keeping tabs on the meeting. And hopefully, after the meeting, we'll get some information for our audience.
Right then, Duke, many thanks for those updates. That's my colleague Duke Mensah-Poku at the Alisa Hotel for that National Executive Committee of the governing New Patriotic Party. And he mentions that there is going to be a proposal of some names in relation to who becomes the running mate of Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. We'll follow up and bring you details here on News Central.
On Regional Hub today, we make a stop in the Ashanti region, where the Asantehene Otumfuo Oseotu II is set to launch the Heal Komfo Anokye Fund to mobilize $10 million to give a major facelift to the second largest teaching hospital in the country. The current state of the hospital wards, according to management, does not promote quick healing, comfort and safety for patients who come in seeking medical care. The facility is saddled with leakages, cracked walls and broken windows, among many other poor working and healing environment. Ibrahim Abubakar is a man on ground at the Komfo Anokye Teaching Hospital. He's joining us via Zoom for more. Ibrahim, looks like you're frozen, but in case you can hear me, talk to us about what is happening there now.
Well, Kemini, so just a while ago, the Asantehene launched the fund, and currently, as we speak, people have started pledging their support. In fact, he made sure that they invited the business community, all the members of parliament in the Ashanti region, the clergy, whoever matters, was invited today to contribute towards the healing of Komfo Anokye. The Asantehene was furious. He was saying the Komfo Anokye Teaching Hospital is a facility that heals the sick. But this is a case where the hospital itself is sick and it needs to be fixed. So he is calling on every single member of the community, everyone who matters, to contribute money to be able to fix this deteriorating facility. Because management is saying that if we don't take it and we don't fix it as we speak, in the next 5 years, we are likely going to shut down the facility.
I see. So Ibrahim, talk to me about the medical officers there and what this means to them.
Well, for them, this is a welcoming news because they have been working under this appalling condition for a long time. For them, they are ready to sacrifice, put in their all to provide the services that matter to the patient. But if you are doing all this and you don't have the requisite resources or what the accompanying resources to work with, then you realize that there is shortfall in your work. So, especially with regards to the recovery rate, they are hoping that after this facility is renovated, the recovery rate will be high. People who spend a week or two may not necessarily spend those number of days here because we have a conducive healing environment.
Ibrahim, always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for this report. Ibrahim Abubakar joined us from the Kumor Teaching Hospital in the Ashanti Regional Capital, Kumasi.
Now, earlier we told you about the summoning or the expectation of the Interior Minister in Parliament in relation to some clashes at Sege. The Member of Parliament for Ada, Comfort Doyo Kujo, she's questioning the leasehold agreement which authorized Electrochem Ghana to embark on salt mining in the area without recourse to Parliament. She's demanding that the contracts be reviewed to allow indigents play a bigger role in commercial salt mining activities in the constituency.
2 MPs from the area, we don't know anything about that allocation. We just chanced on it here. Mr. Speaker, it's good to have investors. When you go to Ashanti region and there is land for gold, we also have that sort as white gold. And in the Ashanti region, they didn't give the whole allocation to Ashanti gold. They should give a space for some of the indigenous so that they can also work to bring peace.
So that's the MP for the area, and we were telling you that the Interior Minister, Ambrose Derry, has been summoned to appear before the House on that shooting incident at Sege, which is all a big part of the Ada constituency, over that incident which resulted in the death of one person. And the first Deputy Speaker, Joseph Osei-Wusu, he was seated in the Speaker's chair, said that the Minister must appear before the House in the first week of December to update the House on the matter.
The natural resource is supposed to be for the state. But here are indigents living by this natural resource, feeding on it. Yes, it belongs to the state, but the state says, I'm giving it to somebody else without regards to these other indigents. I'll direct the Minister for Interior to brief the House about the incident. After the brief, if there's a need for the Committee of Defense and Interior to look further, we will give the appropriate directions. But I suggest that the Committee on Lands and Natural Resources should look at the contract document, the lease document again, visit the site, and advise the House whether it is probable or it is possible to renegotiate.
So the lease document is coming into question this afternoon, but let's take you to the heart of this story, Toflokpo in the Ada West area, where we're learning of simmering tension following the death of one of the residents earlier in the week. According to the many residents who've been speaking to us, they were attacked by unknown men as they mined salt along the Adasong Lagoon. Joseph Armstrong Godalogbe has the rest of the story.
Kwesi is a 43-year-old salt miner who was caught up in a clash between residents of Toflokpo and other alleged workers of Electrochem Ghana Limited. He has an injury on his head and other parts of the body. 5 other residents were said to have been injured and sent to the hospital for treatment. One of them died during the clash.
I may say langas because they are not in police uniform. Okay. And they are holding machetes, both left and right. And they are using it indiscriminately. So they cut 3 of our people, as I'm saying. So it was in that the police started shooting, and the bullet hit 4 of our people, and 1 fell on the spot, and he died. Yes, that is what happened.
Other leaders of the community spoke with the news team.
What is bringing about all these things is it is just the lagoon be given to one person to work with it. Because the lagoon, we are already working on it. And we don't have any new technology from anywhere because we have been trained already on salt production. So we know what salt production is and we can produce salt. So the lagoon be given to one person to work on this, what is creating the problem.
As we see today, no indigenous is against the company working at the Songo Salt project, close to 8,000 acres of land. We don't have any issue with them. If they will be there, they should be there. But coming to where we are working, which by law, if we don't even go for mining right, because the law says that we should work there, we are right. We are not going to be comfortable because our livelihoods are going to be taken out from us.
But the public relations officer of Electrochem Ghana Limited refuted allegations that its workers were involved in the clash.
Our site office located at the Tuflopo in Salom area has been razed down with fire. We had also was our equipment, bulldozers, excavators were equally, brand new ones were equally set on fire by these locals. Our men that we took on the field were not harmed.
That's Armstrong Gola-Logba's quite detailed report there. Richard Kumor is fraud and security consultant. He's joining us on the telephone line this afternoon. Mr. Kumor, many thanks. Not the first time we're hearing of a clash between residents and Electrochem Ghana Limited. Should this now be described as a failing on the security agencies in being able to properly police the area to avoid clashes like this?
Definitely, Mawina. You remember a year ago, there was a crash at Kablevu, and the chief was bastardized, the son was shotgun, pregnant women and their breastfeeding babies have to cross the river to so many other places. Some of us led an advocacy. We took it across the whole group, and tension was reduced and peace came to the community. I have told the investor what to do because these are financial issues, they are resources invested into the place, and there are issues of returns on the investment. Then the community leaders have told them what to do. I think what has created this problem is the lack of security intelligence and the ineptitude of the police. You heard my big brother, my yellow, the chief of the Tuflopo speaking to you, and he said the police were shooting indiscriminately, and he hit the person. We haven't learned from history because in 1985, our mother, Margaret Kumor, was hit with a gunshot, and she died. President Rawlings released the Salt Lagoon to the people of Adan. Then he is coming forward. I have been calling down Paris to the issues that is pertaining to the people of Adan, predominantly within the Sege constituency. But Dan Paris hadn't been to the place. Then his men, right from Terman, Sege to Kasse, their involvement in this particular case, and they carrying guns and they being complicit in the case is what baffles me.
Mr. Kumor, it does appear though that the tensions, Mr. Kumor, if it does appear though that the tensions continue to simmer in the immediacy, what should the police hierarchy be doing to avoid reprisals?
Now, I think Dan Paris will need to visit the area. And the people need protection. We are asking for reasonable people to help the people of Adan. Adan has two constituencies. We have the Sege constituency and we have the Adan constituency. Bello is speaking about the issue because a community in her constituency called Aminapa was bastardized about 4 weeks ago. And if Bello, who is a representative of the people, do not know the contract and have not seen the contract, then you can imagine the euphoria and the agitation of the people. And I'm thinking if Dan Paris knows so well, get to the area, make sure that he supervises the protection and the security of the people. They would have lived peacefully with the investor. They would have lived peacefully with the people.
Mr. Kumor, many thanks for speaking to us this afternoon. That's Richard Kumor, is a fraud and security consultant speaking to us on the situation in the Sege and Adan areas this afternoon.